Well, welcome to this Century Showcase in partnership with John Taylor High School, Key Stage 3 to Key Stage 4 Lost Learning supported by technology. My name is Will Hall. I'm a former head of maths and now a curriculum lead at Century. I'm very fortunate to work with a fantastic team of ex-teachers with a range of experience in the education sector. However, none of us could have predicted the events of the last year and the profound impacts this has had and will continue to have on children's learning and development for years to come. It goes without saying the debt of gratitude we owe to our teachers and leaders who have been on the front line during these unpredictable times. And we are very fortunate to have representatives from John Taylor High School with us this afternoon to share their journey with you. This afternoon, you'll be hearing from Simon Curzon, Director of Numeracy in the Senior Leadership Team at John Taylor High School, Louise Burns, Curriculum Area Leader of English, and Peter Packer, Mathematics Teacher. Also myself, Will Hall, and Fiona McPherson, Customer Success at Century. Before we start, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Century platform, here is an incredibly brief overview. Century uses AI to recommend learning opportunities to students and provides teachers and leaders with insightful data to support interventions. We have content for English, maths and science from year 3 to year 11, including functional skills. What you're seeing a visualization of there is the recommended path. This shows learners topics they should study next based on their strengths and areas for improvement. On the teacher side of the platform, Century provides advanced analytics and easy to use dashboards. And that was probably the quickest overview of Century I've ever given. That is very much not a demonstration. But without further ado, let's begin. I'm shortly going to hand over to Simon Curzon, Director of Numeracy in SLT at John Taylor High School. And as I said at the beginning, please do ask questions throughout the presentations using the Q&A box. But enough of me, over to you, Simon. Thank you ever so much and enjoy. Simon is just getting his camera ready, classic Zoom form. If Simon is struggling, we could jump forward to Louise. Fantastic. Thank you, Louise, lifesaver. I'll hand over to you.
Hi everyone. So the way the sort of area I'm coming from is a new member of staff to John Taylor High School and someone that is new to Century Tech as well. The department actually hadn't used Century Tech before, but after I was shown Century Tech, I was really interested in utilising it and everything that it can offer to provide students and staff with the support that they need. So I'm going to talk through my perspective as someone who's quite new to Century Tech and how useful I found it coming from that perspective. So just to start off with, let me just change the screen. Yes, it's working. So my initial aims when thinking about how to use Century Tech was trying to implement it as an effective homework tool in the first instance. I know that maths use it in a slightly different way, but for English, we have a lot of content to cover, especially at Key Stage 4, and I felt that using it to help students revisit topics and revisit that content would be a way to remove that from some of the lessons we were teaching in person. So it would help students with their cognitive load, and it would mean that teachers were free to focus on the more complex skills in lessons, such as extended writing, analytical essay writing, that type of thing. And so, for example, something that I noticed about Century Tech, which I will talk about more in a moment, is how we could use it to repeat and interleave and look at students' use of retrieval activities to support our curriculum within English, as well as support students in terms of their lost learning, which is something that I will touch upon as well. So what I wanted to do initially was look at our Key Stage 4 and support the students who had and the topics that they'd covered in the first lockdown last year. And so the work that I asked the team to set initially were courses that were designed to help students revisit topics that they were supposed to have covered in lockdown. I'm sure that many of you noticed the difference in the remote learning that we're able to provide this time compared to last time. And so I think it is a really useful tool for that. You know, moving forward as well, I did think it would be great for staff workload, which I know is on everyone's mind, because the diagnostics that Century Tech uses allows, well, the students are advised on, you know, the courses and nuggets for them to cover and the content for them to cover based on how they perform in Century Tech. So that's less work for staff, and instead we can use the data that it provides and the data we gather in other ways to support students in that way, rather than setting specific work ourselves. So something that I noticed initially when we were getting started was that the training that was offered was really fantastic. I hadn't even heard of Century Tech before I started John Taylor High School, but I feel that the support we were given was really useful, and it certainly put everyone in English at ease with using it. I'm sure that I won't be alone in saying that within my department, which is quite large, I have a range of staff members who feel comfortable and uncomfortable with technology, yet everyone has been able to use Century Tech with their groups, following the training that we had, and then following, you know, my ability to move them forward with that as well. So to recover anything that they needed to, or to offer my own support based on some extra contact that I had with Century Tech. I also thought it was really useful that we have the option to complete our own courses on Century Tech if needed. I haven't done that yet, but I know that if I needed to, or felt that I wanted to cover a particular aspect of something that Century Tech offers, that I can use that course, and it will really help me, you know, provide what I need to for the students. So initially, as I mentioned, Year 11 students have been given work that supports their revision. So they covered Romeo and Juliet and a language paper in lockdown last year. And that's something that we initially decided to set Year 11 students before we've actually covered it in lesson as well. So they're getting that extra layer of support with topics that, you know, may feel alien to them because they haven't covered it in person as much as they would, as much as another cohort of Key Stage 4 would. We also made sure that we implemented it into Year 10, and they were new to GCSE, of course, at the start of Year 10. So what we've done for Year 10 students is look at the courses and the content that we can set alongside each topic. So again, they're getting that multi-layered approach. And then I know that the focus is on Key Stage 3 and 4, but at Key Stage 5, we do have a few students who need to repeat their GCSE. And what's been great with Century Tech is the ability to create your own groups on there, and so that we could provide extra courses and content for those students who are repeating it as well. As I'm sure that anyone who supports students repeating their GCSE, you don't get a lot of time with them because they are doing other subjects alongside, and so you have a lot to cover again within a small amount of time. So Century Tech is really useful in that sense. So what I thought I would share with you is our department's impressions. And so first of all, when I was introduced to it, I was impressed with the range of topics for my subject. So I've just got a bit to show you here. So you can see for English literature, there are a range of texts that students study at GCSE. You can see that there are ones specific to the exam board as well. So we use AQA and can focus in on the power and conflict poetry, for example, on the bottom row there. So that's been something that's quite useful because most of our topics are covered by Century Tech. And I also know that they are quite keen to add topics as well. This is an example of what you can see for English language. Again, specific to particular exam boards, which is really useful, even though the assessment objectives and skills in terms of English language are the same across exam boards, questions specifically aren't. So it's really useful to have content that's for our exam board. You can also see that there are topics based on GCSE, SPAG, and there is some functional English topics as well, which I will talk about in a moment. And then I thought I'd just quickly show you what an actual topic looks like. And you can see that that it's broken down. So, for example, this is our power and conflict poetry, and you can choose students to look at particular poems if you didn't want to set the entire course. So, for example, our students are covering a few poems at a time rather than all 15, and so we can set them work where they just look at those poems once they've studied them in lesson, which is something really useful. So just to talk about our next steps before I hand back to Simon. As I said, we initially focused on Key Stage 4 as a simple way to embed Century Tech as part of our department practice. But what I'm really interested in using is the content that's focused on functional topics and spelling, punctuation and grammar, especially for our Key Stage 3 and around their lost learning. So we have some data from a different type of assessment that tells us, you know, where students where their weaknesses are as a whole cohort. And something that we can learn from that and use Century Tech for is set them work specifically to help them with the areas that they need to improve. I'm also really interested in creating intervention groups for our new subject mentor to work with, and again using data from Century Tech, which is something that we will be moving towards in English. As I've mentioned a few times, we're quite new to it. So the next stage for me is using that data that Century Tech provides. And the same thing for Key Stage 4. So I'd like to focus in more on the range of topics to support our students' needs. And I think the diagnostics that Century Tech provides, again, already tells students the areas they need to work on, and it can tell staff as well and help with our planning. And once again, we can use our subject mentor, to you know, provide that multi-layered intervention. So this is just an example of a Key Stage 3 reading course that students can do, and you can see there's different types of writing within that. And as I mentioned, a weakness in our Year 7 is non-fiction. So for example, our subject mentor could set specific nuggets, or we can set the whole course if we feel this is a particular area that they need to work on. Thank you.
Louise, thank you. That was absolutely fascinating. We've had a couple of questions come through. If you don't mind having a go answering some of them. There's a really interesting one here from Jessica asking about different ways you can set work on the system. So Jessica's question is, do you rely on basically controlling Century yourself, so selecting nuggets for your students to do, or do you leave them to their recommended pathway? I get asked those questions an awful lot. It'd be fascinating to know the way you guys use it.
Yeah, for me, and this was based on the training. Initially, I did steer the department to be setting particular content in line with our curriculum, but based on some training following on from that, it was suggested that the courses actually can be really useful. I think it's very dependent on the topic. So you know, if it's English literature, for example, and you're setting work on a text and they haven't finished reading that text yet, you might not want to spoil the ending by setting them the entire course. However, once something has been completed, I think it's absolutely beneficial to set the entire course so that those pathways are created for students, because that's what Century Tech does. It provides the students with individualized, you know, a path for them to follow. So for me and my team, it's very much dependent on the topic. So as I mentioned, for our year 10s who are studying poetry at the moment, I wouldn't set them poems they haven't looked at in lesson yet, but another course based on English language paper 1, I would happily set the entire course.
Brilliant, thank you, Jessica. It's a really interesting point you made there, especially with English on the platform, that there's a healthy mix between different usage models. Just being aware of the time, we've got more questions. Thank you. I'm going to save more questions for a bit later on. Louise, thank you ever so much. That was fascinating. And I have it on good authority that Simon is back with us. So Simon, we will hand over to you. And yeah, please do keep your questions coming in. We will continue to answer them in the chat. Over to you, Simon.
Hi, hopefully the technology is working now. Can you see my screen?
Perfect. All
Brilliant.
good.
Excellent. Okay, sorry about that. I'm the Director of Numeracy at John Taylor High School, and I'm here to go through with you our Century Tech journey from more of a whole school point of view, and focusing in on the maths, which we used of it, and how we've used it during the period of remote learning and moving forward. So starting with our origins, when we went back about 18 months ago, what we were looking for and how we felt Century Tech met what we needed. We wanted a package that had comprehensive key stage coverage, something that worked for Key Stage 3 all the way up to Key Stage 4, but as Louise said, could support our learners in sixth form who still need to do some catch-up work in terms of passing their GCSE maths and English. And we wanted something that could cover everything. We didn't want to have a package that had gaps in it at certain topic areas, and we still needed it to be plugged in. And it was something we were very much aware when we had the initial meetings with Century that the package on offer was complete. This is, I know Louise has shown you some from the English point of view. This is a similar selection from the maths. This is just the very first sections from the higher scheme of work. This is what starting the number topics for what the higher students would be expected to do throughout their 5 years at secondary school, and that's only a small section. It does slide all the way down, and the main thing we found, which we're really impressed with Century, was that every single topic, all those nuggets were self-contained, but they were within a topic, but there was clear progression within that topic, and you could pinpoint different strengths and weaknesses. It wouldn't just be one topic of fractions, it would be all the different key skills were broken down and multiple layers within each one. So in terms of the coverage, it was completely comprehensive and supported all key stages. Secondly, we wanted a package that could be a mixture between direct instruction and independent study, which I think comes back to that question, Will, that Jess just raised with how do we set the work. We're impressed with Century in the fact that we can use it in class to set the nuggets to the students to learn, which would complement whatever we were doing in class that time. But also they could work on it independently, and they could access through their own timelines, they could be working through it. And this is just an example of one of the slides, one of the revision cards which each of the learning nuggets have. The revision cards are very much like a PowerPoint. It goes through the learning episode to support them. But then also you can see just underneath there's Century Explains, which is a little video. So there's a short video clip which goes through the same theory, and that also supports the learners in that way. So that supports them if they're working independently, but also supports them if during a lesson and you've set some work to them after talking through it as a class teacher, they could still then go and refer to additional learning resources with them. Also, we wanted something that was very student and staff friendly. Louise has mentioned about the training, and I'll mention a little bit more about that later. It really was comprehensive, and the students and the staff were able to just pick this up and run with the platform. But we also wanted something that was measurable. This is a very brief snapshot of the latest leadership dashboard from our school. From this, we can see that how many questions have been answered, how many nuggets have been answered, all those different things between the different subjects. Obviously, maths is more embedded at the moment, so that's why maths has got a lot more questions answered. But English is really, Louise has really started to embed that into the department, and it's really increasing as the days go by. It's really good to see. But also in each of these, you can drill down into subject level, year level, class level, see which students are accessing the platform, which are engaging with them, how fully they're engaging with it. And from that point of view, as both a leadership role and also as a class teacher, being able to have ownership of that data is phenomenal. But I know Peter's also going to talk about data after me. How we implemented it? Well, 18 months ago, we targeted at first English, maths and science. English weren't brought on board at that point, and we targeted year 11, all of year 11, and also in maths, the year 7, we wanted something for those students who came in not at the Key Stage 2 100 score. So it was about 40 students. We got them trained up with Century Tech trainers who came in and showed the students how to use it, and also the staff were there present at the same time. And from that point on, we trialed it with that group for about 3-4 months to see how they got on with it before we rolled out Century Tech across the school. And following successfully using it, our year 7s especially, we had one lesson a week with them where they used Century as part of their catch-up program, focusing on the basic numeracy tasks, which are on there, the basic addition and subtraction and basic arithmetic. It really did find that their confidence improved, and we thought that this is a package we want to roll out. So we rolled it out across the start of last year, across all classes and all year groups. And at that point, the staff, my actual maths department staff, they were quite happy and quite content to deliver that training to the students themselves because the platform was quite intuitive, they found. So how did we use it? Well, March 2020, when we had it, we used it as a mixture of guided and directed learning. So we had in-class time where we used it. We were quite fortunate to have some computer suites, which we use, and some laptops. So we used it as a mixture of blended learning with the classes. So the teacher would be doing some general teaching at the front of the room, and then would set the students off on their nuggets, and they could complete it. And because the Century Tech curriculum is covering everything we do in maths, there's always a nugget that complements the work we are doing, either during that lesson or can be used to extend and stretch the students. And it's great as a class teacher that when you've done that and you set the students off to do their work on a range of nuggets, that you can see the results rolling in and instantly see where students need to be supported or stretched. Again, this is the example, I think, was from Jess's question of the different ways in which we can set work. We've got the nugget timeline option. We can just drop one of those learning nuggets at the front of their timeline, so when they're working independently, it appears right at the front. Or quite often, if we're using as a class, we use the assignments option, where we drop an assignment in there, and so when they log on, the first thing they see is what their daily task is for them to do. And we also use that for homeworks. But there are the two options for them just to work through the timeline or set the assignments. Again, we also used it for homeworks, but one of the main benefits we found with Century Tech was that independent learning and revision aid, and something I like to call home support strategies. Not only as a director of numeracy, but a maths teacher and head of maths, I'm constantly getting asked from parents, what can we do at home to support our students, to support our children extra? And Century Tech is a game changer, really, because in all the core subjects, but maths especially, you improve by doing. And Century Tech, by them being able to go on, and the artificial intelligence that supports their home learning and supports their strengths and weaknesses and learns and adds extra and can guide them and drop in the appropriate nuggets as they're working extra. It's brilliant to direct parents to that section of Century Tech. I know Century also just launched their spring challenge, which I'm pushing out to parents this week to try and encourage students to get on and use Century independent of lesson time. And one of the things we noticed in looking at this, I went and had a look to see how much students have used it outside of class time, so outside those nuggets, and found that students have been accessing this during the holidays, even during the summer. So after the summer pandemic, there were still students going on actively doing Century Tech. Nothing had been set for them, they just went on, and you can see the numbers accessing it. And in half term, there was still a not insignificant number of students who were going on there and just using it for their own benefit, which I find really encouraging, that it's not just a tool to use in lessons by teachers, but students are finding the benefit for it. Obviously, things changed last March and have changed this last term, and how we've used it to support our remote learning provision. Well, it's been brilliant for those in-task lessons to be able to monitor what the students are doing, set work that matches the curriculum. The revision cards and the Century Explains help with those asynchronous learning episodes where we're not constantly in front of the cameras talking to the the students when we want them to do it. They can access it from all the different devices, which supports families with obviously maybe only 1 or 2 laptops and they've got multiple children. So they can access it from tablets and phones, and that's brilliant. And obviously the in-class monitoring and support from teachers being able to see what students are doing and then intervene and identify any engagement issues. But the ability to use it in class with the students has been absolutely brilliant in that respect, because they're doing exactly what they would do normally what they would absolutely do normally if they're in class anyway. The other thing I want to say is where next with Sentry. Well, we're going to continue to embed it within maths. We use it as part of our homework procedure. Now it's blended homework, so we try and alternate between traditional bookwork and writing down answers pen and paper, but then we also want to do every fortnight we do a Sentry Tech homework. We use increased use in English and science. Hopefully when we're back in school we will continue to use it in class. It has been another thing, as I said, we have access to a computer room, so during those periods where we've been back in school in the autumn term and we've had some students who are in school and some students are out, it's been brilliant to get the class into the computer room, so the pupils who are at home are doing exactly the same activities as those students who are in school. That's been absolutely a game changer in some of the lessons where we've been able to do that. So the students at home are matching exactly the same curriculum work. In terms of targeted intervention and catch-up support, as Louise said, it's excellent to be able just to pick those topics, put them in there. We've got a maths academic mentor who will be working with them when the students are back, once we've done those soft assessments, to see what topics students are good at and need extra support. We'll be able to drop those nuggets into their timeline to work on. And obviously there's that independent learning and revision. And a small little thing, obviously, for cover lessons, it is brilliant for that kind of work, especially with the Sentry Tech Explains and with the revision cards. It helps if you have got the ability to have students in a computer room or with their own technology or their own devices. They can follow they've got the additional support when not every lesson, when you have a cover lesson, you have a specialist teacher to be able to support them. The Sentry Tech learning materials really has helped with that. Just before I go, one thing I wanted to say is one of the things I've been really impressed with is how Sentry Tech has supported us during the 18 months we've had it. They've introduced a number of key features that have been really good for us. One is the single sign-on. So now when students log in, they can log in with either, well, we have Office 365 School, so they log in with that. It simplifies everything. They use one password. They use the same password they use for the school logins, which just makes it so much easier for them. Sentry Tech have also, this last 3 or 4 months, updated, so it's an automatic pupil update. So we do have students coming and going and changing sets. Sentry Tech updates it every week, or they'll do it whenever we want, bespokely as well, if a student changes midweek, we get a new role, but they do update it for us once a week, which is superb. And the tech support has been brilliant. Whenever we have a question or a query, they are on it straight away. Normally within the hour, they get back to us. And finally, how it's supported us, as I say, from seeing it from doing pupil voice surveys I did just before Christmas, the student confidence is with the technology and how it's helped them to improve their maths. They're certainly feeling it. I did a survey across all the science, all the 3 subjects, maths, English, science, and all the students who accessed it and used it say how much it's helped them improve. And especially the videos and the revision cards, those that engaged with that said it really helped supplement and complement their lessons from what they learned in school and help them at home. So as far as I'm concerned, that's our Sentry Tech journey, how we've gone and how we've used it, and hopefully in the future it'll continue to go strength from strength, especially as now Louise is bringing it on in the English. Hopefully it will have much more of an impact across all the core subjects. So thank you very much.
Simon, thank you very much. And just before we go over to Peter, a couple of questions have come through asking about parents and guardians. Your experience, how have parents and guardians reacted to their children using Sentry at home over the past couple of months?
We've had really positive impact from parents. When obviously I mentioned about what they can do when students, to support the students at home, and we've mentioned Sentry and they've all gone onto it and looked at it, and I think just the usability of it in terms of that independent nature and that nugget timeline, that they can just get on with it, they can work on it, and it learns their strengths and weaknesses. I think they feel that actively supports their students, so, and their children. So in order to support them with supporting their children, I think it's been a game changer.
Brilliant. Simon, thank you ever so much. Saqib, you've got a lovely question about data, but I don't want to answer that or spoil anything, because that's all what Peter's presentation is about in just a second. Also, those of you who have raised your hand, thank you, but could you please type the question in the Q&A box, and then we will be able to see it and we will get it answered for you. But next up then is Peter Packer, mathematics teacher, who's going to talk about data. So over to you, Peter.
Okay, so yeah, I'm coming from the perspective of a busy teacher who's trying to minimize their workload so they can use the data the most effectively to inform your planning. So my section is going to be about how data has driven my lesson planning. To get started, I thought what I'd do is just talk about what data is available to me. So the first thing I want to talk about is whenever you click on a class, you'll just be given the overview. So on the overview page, you're given all of this data. There's also some data on the left, but this data here, it tells you the average scores of students over all the tasks they've done. It tells you how long they spent on tasks, and you can filter that, so you can make it make the students who've scored the highest appear at the top, or on average at the bottom, or the amount of time they spent, put that to the top. And that can inform you quite a lot about how much effort they're putting in, or are they underachieving. So that can be quite informative for you for parents' evenings, for preparing intervention. And also it can be quite helpful to inform you who to praise as well. So the next section I want to look at is the mark book. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just look at each piece of data that you can access, just quite short, and I'll go more in depth with them. So the mark book is the first one, and that's where I kind of get my quick overview of topic data. Nuggets, we've looked at it briefly. Nuggets is actually one of the biggest, the most powerful tools that I've used on Century Tech, and it lets you look at individual tasks and even the individual skills within those tasks. I'll come along to that in a moment. Assignments. So assignments, the way I use assignments is I will look for specific skills, create some nuggets for that tie those skills together in a nice order, and then I'll submit assignment, and that's really how I get my nugget data. So assignments are really good for getting that nugget data. And then lastly, there's an intervention page, which can, just like this overview, can be quite useful for seeing what interventions need to be put in place. Whether that might be, looking at putting more effort in, or it could be that we need to stretch someone. So let's look at them more in depth then. So mark book. The mark book is something I look to just get a general idea of how a topic has gone. So it's usually I look at the topic, the mark book, after I finished a topic. So what I do is I filter. So I've filtered here, you can see over here, into a topic on sets and Venn diagrams. And this is all the data they've produced on that topic. And I can quickly look through their scores and get a general idea about what part of the topic I need to focus on more. So if I want to review anything, that's a really good way of finding that out. Or maybe you're returning to the topic. If you've got like a circular scheme of work, maybe you're coming back to something you've already done, might be a good way to inform what you need to focus on in your planning. But like I said before, the most powerful tool I found for live lessons, as well as planning future lessons, is the nuggets. So once I've set my assignments with some nuggets, I'll get the data from those nuggets from the students once they've completed the tasks. And I'll be presented with this page on those. So for example, you can see I've set them introduction to Venn diagrams, and it straight away tells me their average score. It tells me how how they're doing on each individual question, which can be really good. It shows me this little matrix, which I'll talk about a bit more in depth later, about how what needs each student needs. And then it also shows me all of their individual scores. So this would normally show their names, and then it shows you their score for the task. And then it shows you, breaks it down into each individual question, whether they got that right or wrong, and which questions, which questions they need to work on. So I'm going to look at all of these more in depth then. So like I said, there's this graph that you get on that Nugget page, which is really, really useful, because I can look at this bar chart and immediately just scan through and see which part of this shows, like which questions do I need to work on the most. So just to go over what the graph is showing, the green bars show how many students answered that question correctly, and the orange bars show how many students answered the question incorrectly. So I can look at this and immediately see questions 8, 9, 10. We probably need to go over those questions the most with the class, maybe 1 and 2 as well. So that can lead to me in lessons giving live feedback on those questions. And I'll show you as well how I give that live feedback. So once I've identified the question that I think the class needs to go over the most, what I'll do is actually I'll go back to this page. Well, I'll be on this page already, and I'll just have a look at which question is it. Oh, it was question 8, 9, 10. So I'll look through the list, and I can actually click on the crosses to look at the students' answers and the students' questions. So you'll be presented with this page here, which shows you what question they were asked, and it also shows you how they answered it. So if there's a trend for the students' answers, I might be able to identify a common misconception that way, and then I'll be able to give live feedback on how to correct that. So that's been really powerful, especially with remote lessons, when I'm able to do that with them working on the computers, and then I get live feedback straight away, and then I immediately in that lesson talk about those questions. And I'll plan on continuing that as long as obviously I'm in a computer room or have laptops or an iPad or something like that. The last thing that is on that page is the interventions graph. So this interventions graph, it shows how well students are doing on that nugget. So what percentage they got against how long they spent on it. So the x-axis here shows you how long they spent on it. So the further left you are, the less time they spend on it. The further right they are, the longer they've spent on the task. And then in the middle here, this dotted line shows the average time they spent. And then you've got the y-axis, which shows how what percentage they scored. So again, higher you are, the higher they scored. Lower they are, the lower they scored. And again, there's the horizontal average, that's this dotted line here. So I can immediately look at this and I can identify there's an orange circle here. I can put my mouse over it and I can identify who's that student is. So I can see they've not spent a lot of time on it, and they've also got a low score. So that tells me I need to put some intervention through with that student, just to tell them they need to put more effort in, and maybe contact parents if that continues, if that pattern continues. There's also other students, such as this circle here, who scored very high, but didn't spend a lot of time on the task. So that may mean that they need further stretching. They might need to go in more depth with the topic and get some more challenging questions that really pushes what they know. And then there's this side. So you can see these two circles here are two students that spent the longest time on the task, but have also scored below average. So that shows me that I probably need to put some individual support in for these two students and try and support them the most. And then there's these students up here who have spent the longest amount of time or longer than average, and also they scored very highly, highest in the class. So it tells you who to praise, it tells you who needs more effort, it tells you who to support, it tells you who needs more of that stretch as well. So that's really useful. And then the last piece of data is exactly the same thing, but it tells you for all of the tasks they've ever done. So it's exactly the same thing, but it's every single task. And that way, again, like parents' evenings, interventions, and praising students, you can look at this graph and then maybe get an idea of what you need to be talking about in parents' evenings, etc. So yes, that's the data I use from Century Tech.
Peter, thank you ever so much. That's fascinating. It's also lovely for me to watch you present like that, spending many years of my life creating all of those maths resources. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you to everyone. I'm going to briefly share my screen now. And you are going to hear from Fiona, one of our customer success representatives. So I'll hand you over to Fiona.
Hi, thank you, Will, for that. And thank you, Simon, Louise, and Peter for everything that you've said so far already today. I'm Fiona and I work on the customer success team here at Century. And I've had the pleasure of working with John Taylor for the last year as well. I'm briefly, as I'm aware of the time, going to talk to you quickly about the support that we offer to schools at Century. Our role in the customer success team is to work alongside schools throughout their time with us to ensure that they have everything they need for a successful implementation and continued results. As part of the Century package, you're appointed a dedicated account manager from our team. This account manager will begin their relationship with you by taking you through the onboarding and account creation process. We can tailor this to meet specific needs, such as creating catch-up or stretch classes, and also making sure any teaching assistants are set up correctly. From here, we work with the lead at your school to plan the implementation and rollout. The team at Century have got experience across all school sectors, and we've seen many different setups and scenarios. We fully appreciate that not everyone has access to the same devices, and not everyone has the same homework policy. And we aim to understand your motivation behind choosing Century and then recommend how we think it will work best for each individual setting. We use this information to help inform our rollout with you. So firstly, as mentioned by both Simon and Louise, we look at training your staff. So this consists of sessions with our talented team of former teachers, Will included, and we recommend appointing champions amongst your teachers, as we've heard from today, who are both approachable and knowledgeable. And in time, some schools then shift to a model of those champions training other staff. But we're always on hand to support with this training. We also work with you on the rollout for students. As Simon mentioned, we did initially, we used to go into schools. Of course, we can't do that anymore. But it can be beneficial to launch initially with targeted year groups, such as year 7 or year 11. And then following this, we can work to roll out with the rest of the school across a chosen time period by you. That's an example of a steady rollout, but of course, if you want to implement Century at a faster pace, we can also easily accommodate that. Following your initial launch, that's when the data starts to appear. That's when Century can become more interesting to the teachers and they grow more confident in Century and what it can do. And there's often further ideas for implementation. Your account manager will continue to work with you to help you to implement these and advise based on their experience. From resetting diagnostics at the end of a topic to gauge progress, to setting catch-up work for students working at a significantly lower level, we've worked with schools through lots of different scenarios. The customer success team here at Century and your dedicated account manager are ready to help you every step of the way and to ensure that you have a smooth and streamlined rollout. And we continue to work with you throughout your subscription to keep you updated on any new developments and provide best practice tips as well. So thank you very much for your time here today. I'm just going to pass back to Will for you.
Excellent. Thank you, Fiona. And thank you to everyone this afternoon. Very exciting. We've had almost 130 people watching the presentation here. So brilliant stuff. And all I'm going to do now is share the final slide with you all, introduce you to our wonderful partnership team. Here they are, their email addresses and their respective areas that they represent. We've had so many questions come through, and as with these types of events, we are simply unable to answer every single one of them, but these 4 people on your screen here will be more than happy to answer your questions. Please do send them an email and set up a much more in-depth platform demonstration, especially more in-depth than the one I gave that was only about 30 seconds long. Also, for those of you that use social media, you will see our hashtag there, hashtag lost learning. Please do spread the word, and don't forget to tag us with @thisissentry. We do love seeing ourselves in social media, as we all do. But finally, thank you ever so much to our representatives from John Taylor High School. Your presentations were wonderful. Thank you to Simon Curzon, to Louise Burns, and of course to Peter Packer as well. It was wonderful and lovely for me, curriculum lead here, to listen to the way that you're using Sentry. It's great to hear. Thank you ever so much. Thank you for attending. Thank you for watching. We are finished now. I will leave that slide up so you can jot down the contact details of our partnership managers. But on behalf of Sentry, thank you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.